Welcome to Dust to Grace, where gumption meets grace and real life gets lived out loud. I'm so glad you're here. Last Sunday, I got dressed for church, and for 1 second, I actually thought about wearing a skirt. Now, I'm a country girl, and dresses and skirts don't come out of my closet that much. But my boys are growing now, and some little voice in my head said, well, the boys are growing now. You could actually wear a dress and not hear about it. See, every time I put on a dress when my boys were growing up, one of them would look at me and go, "What are you wearing that thing for?" And unbeknownst to them, I was already a little uncomfortable in a dress to begin with. So their teasing just made it real easy for me to reach for the pants instead. I even wore a pantsuit to my youngest son's outdoor wedding. So, Sunday morning, that skirt was laid out on the bed, and I left it there. And by the end of the day, I was never so glad of a decision in my life. I went to church at 10:30, and by the time I walked out, it was already pushing 100 degrees in the shade. I ran a few errands, hit 3 different grocery stores, chasing the best deal. You know how it goes. I came out of the 3rd store, and my back driver's side tire was flat as a pancake. No problem, I thought. My husband, bless his heart, keeps a portable air compressor in my car for exactly this kind of thing. I figured it out, aired it up, felt pretty golden about myself. Then I went to put the air compressor away and heard it. That hiss. Air just leaking right back out. Fine, I'll pull it into the auto shop, get it changed real quick. Except, well, madam, it'll be about 2.5 hours before we can get to you. And I said, sir, that's a problem, because this tire is going flat again, and it'll be totally flat in 5 minutes. Any chance you could spare someone to help me change it? And I already knew the answer before he gave it. Against store policy, madam. But you're welcome to pull around and change it in the parking lot over there. So that's what I did. Now, by this time, it was 107 degrees on that asphalt. I had sandals on, and the second I knelt down, that pavement was burning straight through onto my feet. Out comes the scissor jack, figuring out how to drop the spare tire, and then these pretty little decorative lug nut caps, the kind that look nice and are absolutely no help to anybody, because they keep the wrench from seating down onto the lug nut, solid enough to turn it. I worked at those lug nuts. I tugged. I threw my whole body weight into that wrench. My Sunday makeup was sweating right off my face, running into my eyes, burning them, stinging them. I finally just had to take my glasses off and set them aside, because I couldn't see through them anyway. Kneeling on that hot pavement, glasses off, squirming, soaked in sweat, I just kept saying this to myself. Lisa, you're an old cowgirl. You can do this, even in this heat. And here's a little brain science for you, because I can't help myself. That's a real thing your body does when you're overheated, in pain, and being watched by strangers. The amygdala, that little alarm center in your brain, is doing everything it can to convince you this is an emergency. Get out, panic. What I was doing, saying that line over and over, Lisa, you're an old cowgirl. That line gave me what I needed to give my prefrontal cortex, the reasoning part of the brain, a chance to step back in and say, we've got this. You have a process. That's not just stubbornness. That's a skill, and it's one you can build. You know, there's a real psychological reason people don't always stop to help a stranger. The more folks around who could help, the less any one person feels like it's on them. Psychologists call this the bystander effect. It's not that courage went missing out of this world. It's just how brains work in a crowd. But my sister-in-law didn't hesitate for a second. I picked up the phone and I called her, a local farmer herself. She dropped what she was doing and came straight to that parking lot, knowing exactly what a hot afternoon and a bad tire can do to a person. By the time she pulled up, I was already tightening the last lug nut on the spare. But that didn't matter one bit to her. She still loaded that flat tire into her own vehicle and told me her brother, who works at a local tire shop, would have it fixed first thing in the morning. That's family. That's somebody showing up, not because you needed saving, but because you shouldn't have to stand alone in the heat if she can help it. I hope she knows just how much that meant to me. Driving home, sweaty and worn out, I got to wondering if that whole morning was even worth going to church. And then I started counting up what I actually had to be thankful for. First, I didn't blow that tire out doing 60 miles an hour down the highway. Second, I never once panicked. I knew the whole time I could work it out, that I could rely on myself. And third, I was mighty thankful that that skirt was still laying on my bed at home and not on me in that hot parking lot. And that's not just me being sentimental. Naming what you're grateful for is one of the fastest ways to bring your whole nervous system back down out of the alarm mode. I did it without even thinking about it. It works. But here's what I really got to thinking about on that drive. Where did that confidence even come from? Because I never once doubted I'd get that tire changed. And my mind went back 37 or so years to when I was about 22. I was working as a ranch hand. It was one of the best summers of my entire life. I've always figured the boss hired me, at least in part, to spark a little competition between the men and the women on the crew, because there was always a little competition going between me and them. I was a girl, after all, and nobody wanted to get showed up by a girl. One scorching hot summer day, they sent me out to a far summer pasture with the old patriarch of the ranch. Now this man was in his 80s, a retired veterinarian full of stories. We were rolling out through the pastures, hauling salt and mineral out to the cows, him telling me tale after tale, having about the best day two people could have. And then the old 2-track pickup trail just disappeared out from under us. Both front wheels dropped straight down into a washout. Front end was stuck solid. Didn't matter one bit that we had 4-wheel drive. The back of that pickup bed was sticking up in the air at least a good foot higher than it ought to be. That old man, he looked over at me real calm and said, "Oh, I think we're in trouble." It didn't register to me at first. Then I stepped out and saw just how stuck we were. This was long before cell phones, mind you. over 100 degrees and not a lick of shade anywhere. But we had a full water jug. Thank goodness. And it turns out we had time because we weren't going anywhere until we figured this one out all by ourselves. We dug out the old handyman jack. And let me tell you, there's nothing handy about that thing. Heavy, awkward, and ornery. But that old vet, past 80 years old, just calmly became the instructor of the whole operation. He sent me off to find big rocks and pieces of wood to lodge under the tires once we got the truck jacked up. I found what we needed, and we set the jack on the bumper, cranked her up, wedged the rocks under one tire, then the other tire, and he climbed in. I turned the hubs to lock in four-wheel drive, and he gunned that engine, and he put it in drive, then reverse, then drive, then reverse, rocking that pickup with everything it had until it lurched free onto solid ground. I will never forget the look on his face. It was pure relief, pure triumph. We even stopped in town for ice cream on the way home. I think about that day, and it still brings me joy. We were in a real fix, and we figured our way out of it together. And I think that's exactly where Sunday's confidence came from. That old patriarch, he taught a 22-year-old girl that being stuck isn't the end of the story. It's just the part before you figure it out. He spent a whole lifetime building that ranch, doctoring animals, raising up hands like me. And on that hot day, in that washout, what he was really building was something in me. Psychologists call it self-efficacy, the belief that you can handle what comes. Built not from somebody telling you that you can, but from actually doing it and living to tell about it. Every hard thing you get through becomes a deposit in that account. And almost 38 years later, kneeling on burning asphalt with my glasses off and my mascara running down my face, that deposit is exactly what I was drawing on. So here's what I want to leave with you. The next time life drops your front wheels into a washout, whatever that looks like for you, remember, you've been stuck before. You've got a process. You've got people who love you enough to pack an impact wrench in your truck or teach you how to lodge a rock under a tire when you're 22 and don't know any better. Or drop everything and drive straight to you when you call. You're not stuck for good. You're just in the part of the story before you figure it out. Hope, breathe, lean, believe, and grow. You're not behind. You're not broken. You are one breath away from the life Grace has for you. Real stories, real struggle, real grace. Take the breath. Lean in. I'm Lisa Andrews, and I'll see you next time. Have a grace-filled day.